my in-ears don't fit my ears. So they're falling out left and right, no matter
And
what
kind of
I
more out ears.
yeah, literally, no matter how much tape and hot glue that I put on my skin, it is always on the floor.
She's 24 years old. Her music boosts confidence and tells stories. You may know her from her songs Laughing in My Sleep or Couch. Please welcome Haley Gold to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Happy to have you on and can't wait to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so kind of first question to get the ball rolling. What was your first experience with music like, or what made you first get into music?
Oh man, looking back at the Stone Age, but I actually started in a girl group. This was 5 or 6 years ago. I was managed by Boys to Men's Sean Stockman, and
Hmm.
that was kind of my first way into the music industry. Completely different, because being in a girl group, of course, not only do you have to sing alike and look alike, but it's a lot more technical than how people think it actually is. There's
Right.
harmonies and production. Like we didn't really have that much freedom to songwrite or learn that much in terms of like creating our own sound. So I think branching out of that group years back definitely gave me some independence in a way that I could never imagine in terms of learning how to songwrite for myself and learning how to produce with my friends who make my songs with me. And, now I'm the artist that, speaks the truth and, absolutely loves what they do.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And so, like, kind of this girl group, it was called Dame, right?
Yes.
What, yeah, so like, it seems like you had a very kind of industry feel to it. You were kind of like, it kind of seems like you were being told what to do, how to sound a little bit. But before it kind of disbanded, did you like have any desire to break off as a solo act? Did you want to kind of stand alone in the music industry?
You know what it is? I'm for sure a team player. And when I was younger, I was, the mom of the group. So I had to keep everybody in check and in line. And I was also the oldest one. So that idea wasn't really running through my head at the time. I thought that the group was going to be it. And then, you hope and strive for the best always in everything that you do. So when the group had broken up, that was a huge, I would say, culture shock for me because it was like, all right, I left high school and didn't really have like a college experience like everybody else did. And I got out of that group and I was like, I don't really know who I am. I was, trained for 5, 6 years to be like three other girls. So coming out of that, it was definitely a shock. And I had to do a lot of soul searching. And with that being said, it just took a lot of training and, mental and physical health to get me to where I am. And learning how to be vulnerable for myself and songwriting and putting out, my words out there.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure being vulnerable because a lot of your songs they talk about your own experience, they talk about your life, so I'm sure you feel
Oh,
very connected to all the songs you put out, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and so what was that? What was that kind of like once you started, kind of wanting to put out these such like honest words, honest lyrics to the world?
I was definitely scared at first. I think with my first single that I put out during the pandemic in 2020, I had like an hour before the song was going to release, and I was like panicking because I was like, one, I don't know how people are going to like it. Also, two, like, that is my emotions. I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve right there. And I was, a little skeptical and worried about what people would think if I started to release music of, how I actually had been dealing with my life. But of course, with pain comes great music. So, and nobody was bad about any of the songs that have released, which I'm very grateful and thankful about. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a great learning experience to put out music during the pandemic, and there's only growth from there.
Yeah, and so did it do you kind of feel like you got, like, some time to kind of, uh, build up the amount of music you had? Because you didn't if you started during the pandemic, I guess you weren't really worried about trying to perform live, go on tour, all these things, so did you kinda just
Yeah.
focus more on music creation and getting music released?
Yeah, so I actually had started songwriting and like thinking about music for myself. I think it was more like 2019, and the pandemic hit. I was coming back from Nashville, and that was like my first ever independent like solo songwriting sessions that I ever booked for myself. So I came back from that trip, and then COVID just hit, and I was like, all right. So I had a whole plan, and now we have to reverse that. So it was a lot of fun, um, to an extent, because COVID was COVID, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun to actually do these songwriting sessions with people from across the country, let alone the globe. Like, how crazy it is that technology can connect us all like that. And I was able to get in touch with people I never thought that I would ever meet, let alone know. So it was really awesome to hear how other people started in the industry and what they've learned. And I've used everybody else's styles and advice and put it, of course, into my music as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when before you kind of started your career, even before with Dame, was there, growing up, was there anything you were kind of considering to do in life other than music, like any other profession?
Wow, I've never been asked this question. Honestly, it did start pretty young where I thought that I could sing, and I did shows at my local church with my family, and then I did a talent show with me and my twin sister, and it was like you had to perform something about like what background you were, your family life. It was like a educational type talent show. So me and my sister were like, you know what, we're twins, let's do something fun. So she danced as I sang, and nobody told me at that time that I was bad. So I kind of kept it going. And with that, kind of sparked a whole love for music and being on stage and songwriting. Songwriting was new for me in 2019. I had no idea how to songwrite. And to see first songs that I've written back then and to what they are now is just a complete difference, and I'm so proud to call
Yeah.
those songs.
And so if you started writing like in the pandemic and you kind of went through this learning curve of how to write songs, what that process looked like how did you kind of get better at it? How did you uh I guess advance your songwriting skills?
So I love, actually, I think my best songs were written when I was like traveling. So
Hmm.
I'm looking out of the window, and it's either on a bus, a train, a plane. Just it's got to be somewhere that's not my room. And I don't know why, but I mean, even when I was younger, my parents always told me that like I always stared out the window for hours on car rides. Like I wouldn't talk to anybody; I would just stare out the window. So that kind of drew a lot of inspiration for me in trying to dig down deep into what I wanted to talk about. And a lot of the things that I do write about, yes, they are relationships and love, but it's also confidence and, learning about it's okay to be who you are. Because, I've struggled with that too, just like everybody else. And um, I think it was a great emotional tactic for me too to get better myself. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of how it all
Yeah.
started.
So it's kind of, I guess, like just just like seeing new things, traveling, like being
Oh,
inspired
yeah.
by that rather than like being around, like obviously in your room, like everything there. It's a familiar place, and so kind of just getting out and about and traveling.
Like, and it's funny too because a lot of the sessions that I have, I usually come in with the idea, and they're always like, "Where did you write this?" Like, I don't understand how half the song is done, and you're coming into a session. And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I was just on a bus." Like, yeah, that's just like kind of how it works for me. And the people that I work with, especially Jesse Blumenfeld, who produced a lot of the music that I have released and I will be releasing soon. But he is such a sport when it comes to all of this stuff because some wild ideas have been made in sessions with him along with other songwriters that I've worked with. So,
And
uh,
and so if travel was kind of the main, like, I guess, inspiration for you, did that change at all during the pandemic? Were you still traveling enough to get inspired, or did you find that you were having a harder time during
It's
that?
funny because I think during the pandemic, so like for example, like Butterflies, Couch, and Montana, those three songs were actually written before the pandemic, but they weren't produced. So
Mhm.
during the pandemic, that was where we really took the hammer and like really felt how the song would sound like. But words and melodies and stuff like that were made beforehand. So I didn't really get into more, direction when it came to songwriting until like after that. I would say like summer of 2020, where things started to open up again, is where a lot more songwriting for me kicked in because I was able
Yeah.
to.
And so, like, at any point in your career with Dame, or once you started your solo career, were you kind of like unsure about like your voice, like weren't like were maybe nervous or shy to sing at all and put your voice out there?
Um, I mean, for sure, I was definitely nervous. I still have like stage fright slightly always before any of my shows too. And it's something I can't,
Hmm.
it's so weird. It's something I can't get rid of until I'm actually on stage. And like, it was funny too, because I had a show 2 weeks ago at Cobra Coffee where it was just a really intimate, nice, guitar acoustic session, and I was able to just sing like three or four of my favorite songs that I've put out in front of people that I didn't even know. So that was an even better experience. But I was like in front of all of like the people that were there, and I noticed my legs shaking still during the first song. And I had asked, I was like, I'm so sorry if my foot was just literally like slapping you guys in the face. Like I still get nervous and I don't know why, but I think it's better to be nervous than to be cocky about things. So
Yeah.
I'll
Well, being nervous shows that you like care, have a level of passion for it.
exactly. I take being nervous, any day like that. But it's as soon as the music comes on, it's like I'm right there. So
Yeah.
it's always the anxiousness beforehand.
Yeah. And so what sort of like tips or advice would you give to new artists coming into the space that maybe like haven't had their first performance yet? Like they've released a couple songs and are maybe gearing up for a live show, but actually haven't gone out and performed yet.
You know what? I would say first to breathe, drink water. That is a first. But I tend to actually like stare into the distance. And usually when you do that, it looks like from an audience perspective that you're looking out into the crowd and not that you're focused on one specific thing. So I tend to like pick a point and like sing to that specific point or person, whatever the case may be. I never look at my family ever. So don't look at your family. Just don't. But because I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but my family is crazy. So they always make me nervous sometimes because I always want to, have them feel proud of me. So
Yeah.
I always avoid looking at them. But no, I would say to take your time because a lot of people feel like they'll rush a set and you want to enjoy your time being up there, and it's sometimes it'll only happen once, so take it all in and enjoy yourself.
Yeah. And that kind of wanting to make your family proud, do you think like have you had that feeling or already, or are you kind of still sort of searching for a way to
I
do that?
have it. You know what? I have it at points, and I had it when I first released my single, like 2020. I had it during my first show, and I still continue to always make my family proud because they've done so much for me in terms of putting me on my feet and raising me to the person that I am today, not just as an artist but as a person. So, everything that I do is for them. So I, hope to continue and make them prouder as the years go on.
Yeah, yeah. And what sort of once you had some music released, and I guess this probably would have been with Dame, but the first live show you had, the first live performance, what kind of was that experience like for you? What was kind of the setting, everything like that?
Oh, okay. So first live show that I had was at, oh, okay, crazy story. So this was at Six Flags in New Jersey, and we were opening up for Sabrina Carpenter, and the place was filled, like craziest number of people. I've never done like a festival, let alone show that big. So that was really nerve wracking. And I remember I was just shaking through the entire thing. But like that always comes with your first show. But
Mm-hmm.
remember coming off and I was like, this is awesome. Like, and then there were like fans coming up to us afterwards that like, of course, like, some knew us, some didn't know us. So it was just really cool to actually see how far the music grew. And, seeing that support like that was just memorable. And I'll
Yeah.
always.
And how do you kind of see or feel differences between playing like a festival show versus a show that like is for you, like you're the kind of main
I
focus?
It's just the acoustic girl in me that absolutely loves the smaller shows where they're intimate and you could really get personal with those. I feel like with
Mhm.
shows, it's you're on like one of those time schedules. You got like 20 minutes and the crazy lights and the cameras and the whole thing, which they are so much fun. And I'm never gonna say no to doing a festival, but I feel like because I started so small that it just kind of brings me back. Um, to where I started every time I do those types of
Yeah,
sets.
yeah. And so, um, was there ever kind of a moment that maybe it was really hard on your career or made you kind of question or second guess if music really was the right path for you to take?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like you go through that constantly. So it's like so hard to, especially in this day and age where, right now everybody is growing up, everybody is learning, and everybody is, trying to figure out what they want to do with themselves. So it's, always a struggle. And especially when it comes to music, like I always want to make sure that my music is, as personal and as detailed and, as amazing as it actually is. So
Hmm.
it's like, it's so important for me. And I feel like that weighs on my chest a lot.
Yeah. And do you like, I guess, are there ever moments that like you find yourself kind of holding back on a song, or like you kind of keep finding small things that you want to change because you're trying to make it kind of this like perfect song when like you like perfect, like have you ever found yourself in kind of a perfectionist mindset?
Oh, absolutely, all the time. With every song that I write to getting them produced, mixed, and mastered, I'm always not just thinking about if I like it, but if other people will like it. Because I'm not just making music for myself, I'm making it for, people that also need it and love it as well. So that always weighs heavily on my chest. And especially with, the words that I choose to put in the songs, like, I could get really personal. I could really wear my
Yeah.
on my sleeve. So sometimes after I write a song, I have to take a step back and be like, all right, how far did I push this song? Do I have to take a step back and change some things? Because I never want to hurt anybody.
Hmm.
Especially when it comes to relationships. Like I love Taylor, I love Taylor Swift, but I don't know, I don't know if I'm ready to release songs where like people's names are in there.
Yeah.
but but yeah, I feel like it's important for me um, to really put that detail and that time and effort into my music, and I think I'll forever have that on my chest. But I don't mind it because it's like a good type of.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good type of stress.
Yeah, and kind of as a song goes through its process, writing, recording, produce it, specifically more like producing and mixing and mastering. How like involved are you in those processes?
So with um, sessions being online, I wish I was more involved in the production process, especially when it came to like Laughing in My Sleep and Rocket Science. But
Mm-hmm.
those songs were made during COVID, so I wasn't able to actually sit in the room and watch it be produced. I was more so
Yeah.
getting the session afterwards. But of course, my input gets put in on everything, and I'm lucky in those sort of situations because sometimes, with producer stories and things like that, they like to make it their own. So I'm very grateful and lucky that um, Jesse and Will Daly and Chris Liggio and even Chris Willie. He they all were very respectful when it came to my sound and what I wanted. So, and I'm in love with all of my songs. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Yeah. And so is there kind of maybe it's a person, another artist, just anyone that has kind of inspired you the most to kind of keep going with your music career to like pursue this as what you want to do in life?
Oh gosh. Well, if you asked me this question when I was 13 or 12, I would say Justin Bieber. I would say I was the biggest Belieber fan that anyone has ever seen, to the point of me like praying to all of the lords out there that I would like win tickets, meet him. Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
And uh for a young girl looking at somebody who started from nothing and ended up with this huge career, that is so inspiring to see. And at that time, a bunch of people were probably thinking the same thing, like, I want to do that. But now, even when it comes to like my songwriting and how much my music taste has changed, like I look up to a lot of songwriters more. So like Julia Michaels, JP Sachs, John Bellion, like a lot of people that are
Hmm.
behind the scenes. And that's kind of what inspires me to keep creating songs, because everything is brand new. And I feel like the industry is constantly changing. So it's important to kind of stay up to date with like new music Fridays and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
grab
Yeah.
inspiration, because you never know where it's going to come from. But I did watch the Elvis movie 5 times, and I, I am obsessed. So let's just say Elvis and Austin Butler definitely are on my shoulder as I'm continuing my
Yeah.
music career now.
and 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 you kind of mentioned it, like it's a lot of keeping up with the industry, not because of just where things are coming from, but it's also now moving so much faster and is so much more saturated than it has been in the past. And a large part of that is from these social platforms, is from
Yep.
things like SoundCloud, where anyone anywhere can just upload their music. It's from TikTok, where artists are blowing up, like sharing their songs. How has like I guess social media, or like trying to utilize social platforms, affected your own career?
That's such a big question. So, you know what? I'll start with this. So it's like when I started in music, it was only and strictly YouTube. It was like put out as
Hmm.
many covers on YouTube as you can, and get the views, hashtag, like, and that was it. Because everybody followed in terms of like Justin Bieber. So you started from
Yeah.
YouTube, and then Instagram and Facebook blew up. So not only did you have to sing, but now you had to become a personality and train yourself to act like a sort of celebrity and become that influencer that people want to gravitate toward. So it turned into an industry that wasn't focused on the music as much, but now you're focusing on drama and, personality and style. So that definitely grew because of social media. And now with TikTok, it's like, heck, people can be singing in a laundromat and blow up and get famous and get signed the next day.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know where the industry is going, and that's why you always have to stay up to date with everything. I will say it is so amazing that you could connect with people universally when it comes to not just music, but food, but culture, like everything.
Hmm.
But it definitely is hard on anybody's like just mentally, like trying to get the views and, wondering why nothing's blowing up or what they have to do to continue on. Because, even now in the industry, there are so many songwriters and singers that are on TikTok that just post videos of them in their car, and none of them get noticed. Half the
Yeah.
time, get noticed. And I just feel for them so much, because they're working twice as hard and they have to now play the game of social media, which is a beast in itself. So, if
Yeah.
I
And
wish the music industry was like how it was, in the 80s or 90s, where we didn't have that sort of social media, but I am grateful for it.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of the time, artists kind of have to be wary of, not getting so caught up in the social media game, in making posts on time, that they kind of stray away from, the actual music side of their
Absolutely.
careers. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing where people aren't really caring anymore about how the song sounds. They're just caring about the followers and the view count. And like to me, that's not the industry that I would love to be in. You know what I mean? I want to be in an
Yeah.
industry where people could share their feelings and emotions and experiences through music, and because that's where it started. Music is universal, brings people together, and when you're losing that, what is the industry? So,
Yeah. And I was just thinking back when you were listing all these, songwriters that you were following, JP Sachs, John Bellion, a lot of these songwriters have kind of done something that has become way more popular now in the social media era, which is using their songs to just talk about, problems with social justice, problems in just the world today, and kind of bring attention to these topics using music. Like, how do you feel about that sort of songwriting? Do you ever see yourself doing anything like that? Yeah.
absolutely. I'm open to all topics, all genres of music. Heck, if, one day I want to switch to hip hop, I'm going to do it because I just love the industry and it's worth
Yeah.
trying to do. And if it could make somebody's day, I'm here for it. So, I would love to even, be in a session with those people where they know how to not only, speak to people through music, but like, hear people out and actually, produce something that's worthwhile.
Yeah, yeah, and um, yeah, and I think that's a big part of it, and I also think that like a lot of these songs are actually like proving to cause change. A lot of them are kind of jump starts for movements or for certain uh topics to finally get covered and get any help that they needed in the past.
Yeah. No, I mean, even for me, like with my music, like I'm a huge stand for mental health. So any possible way that I could help somebody through music or just, even if they reach out, like I love answering all of my Instagram messages and stuff like that of, girls and guys just being like, "Hey, like I'm really going through this thing, but this song really spoke to me and I just wanted to thank you." Like that to me is so important. It weighs, way more than anything else.
Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. And super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program. So I guess my next question would just kind of be like, once you kind of enter a session, once you try to sit down and finish writing a song or start writing a song, what does that process sort of look like? Do you think back to any sort of moments? Do you try to, write first and then try to find an instrumental that fits that, or do you kind of start with an instrumental and use that as the base?
I think when I first started, it came from melody first that I created in my head, and then we worked. I would say it was worked backwards, and then we did the production and stuff like that. Now I um, started learning on like how I'm blanking on the word, but learning how to write music on top of other people's productions that get sent over to me, and that took
Mhm.
a huge that was for me like a huge step in the right direction because I never used to be able to do that. I always had an idea in my head and I needed it to be done the way that I
That
wanted it.
way, yeah.
But now, getting all of these different productions into my inbox and hearing other people's, way of sharing their emotions through music and doing the music first before that, is so special. And I'm so happy and honored that, I'm able to songwrite for people as well. And they trust me to, put my thoughts out there for their music. So that has been so much fun for me to do.
Yeah, and, sort of, I guess when, when you're trying to do that, I guess, do you find kind of when you had this kind of preconceived notion of what you wanted something to sound like, did you kind of find it harder for songs to come about because, things weren't quite that way?
Yeah, I'm a big like for a demo for me, it needs to somehow sound like what I want it to. Like I'm always
Mhm.
thrown off when I make a demo and then I get like the first round of production like the following like either week or month and it sounds completely different and I'm like, "Wait a minute. I have demoitis." Like I've been listening to the demo for, the past month and a half and now it's a completely different song.
Yeah,
So that was definitely challenging to me. And I also never wanted to have my productions be overly produced. That was a big fear of mine. So, first coming into the industry and first writing like Butterflies, that song took 2 years to actually get right because it was, I think, maybe like 8 or 9 rounds of production on that song
yeah,
because every time I worked with somebody different on the song, it just didn't feel right to me. And sure as hell, we ended up going back to um, the original acoustic version of the song because that's where it just felt more like home. I feel like the more people started adding to it, the not the worse that it sounded, but it didn't sound genuine anymore. So that was a really big learning curve for me to make sure that it wasn't too heavy on the sound and people could actually hear not just my vocals but what I had to say.
yeah, and so it seems like you kinda definitely have an attachment with how, like, your songs sound, kind of the more production sound side of it. Um, have you ever thought about, trying yourself to learn, some level of production skills that you so that you could kind of, at least in part, take the reins on the production side?
Oh yeah, I mean, GarageBand has become one of my best friends, but it's a love-hate relationship because I am a beginner when it comes to production and
Mhm.
I also when I started songwriting, I mean, I still wouldn't even call myself a professional, but I don't know how to play the piano and I don't know how to play the guitar. So I did everything off the top of my head when it came to melodies and where productions would sound and heck, I would make
Yeah.
up words to have people understand what I was trying to say. So I definitely did it the hard way, and now I'm going back to step one and really taking in the education of it all. But yeah, I hope one day I could actually produce a full blown song. I don't
Yeah.
know how long
Yeah,
that'll
no, no.
take.
I myself have used GarageBand in the past, and I think it's a great kind of first step, great kind of stepping stone into music production, into learning, how to come up with an instrumental, how to lay vocals over a beat, things like that.
Oh yeah, my dear engineer Chris Wally, who produced a couple songs that are actually coming out soon. But he is my engineer for every single song that I've cut. So he has been through it all with me, this poor man. But anytime that I want to at least record a demo where I'm like, hey, this is going to sound great on this. Can I come into your studio and cut it? We would be, in a session for at most maybe like 2 hours, and we'd cut each demo that I had in my head. And so he's been through it all and he would probably be very proud that I'm now trying to learn GarageBand and how to cut my own vocals.
Yeah, yeah. And so, do you kind of take or use inspiration at all from other artists? And if you do, how do you kind of balance that kind of that? How do you handle that inspiration imitation balance and not sound too much like any one artist?
Absolutely. So, I think right now my biggest inspirations would have to be like in between of Miley Cyrus and Dua Lipa. I definitely love writing songs that are a little sad, but they come off very pop because of the
Yeah,
production. So that's like my favorite thing to do. So I've been really playing with different disco, rock, pop ideas, and again, staying away from sounding like them because everybody's trying to do the same thing, and I want to create my own sound that's specific to me. And it took a lot of time. It really did. I would say it's a lot more like soul searching, to be honest with you, because you could think that you are in love with one genre of music, but another month or two may roll around and that's not what you should be singing. um
yeah,
like I had that with country. I thought that I was going to go country for a really long time, and that's where like Butterflies in Montana came into play. But I ended up becoming a little bit more pop alternative, maybe a little hint of R&B because that was what the girl group was. So
yeah,
I have that kind of in my nature and in my blood too. But again, it took so long. It was not an overnight process by any means. And to people that think that being an artist is so easy to do, they're talking to the wrong people.
yeah, yeah. And and part of what you said, this kind of honest or even sad lyrics at times with kind of a poppy upbeat feeling. I feel like that's also like you can find a lot of artists now doing that, and that's myself one of my favorite kinds of music because it sounds great, and that's a giant part of music, just sounding great. And then you listen closer to what the artist is actually saying, and it just adds like a whole new layer to the song, and it's almost like you almost like fall in love all over again with the song for a totally
Absolutely.
different reason.
You could listen to a song so many times, you could hear something new from it each time you listen. So
Yeah.
that's why music is just so unique with all of that stuff. But good, bad stories and bad situations turn into really good stories. That's what it was. And I have this quote in my room. It's bad decisions make really good stories, and that's kind of what motivates me all the time to write from
Yeah,
my
that
right.
reminds me of, do you know the group AJR, the pop group?
Yes,
That
yes.
reminds me a lot of one of their songs, "100 Bad Days." They
Yeah.
have, like, that line, "100 bad days make 100 good stories."
Yep.
And it's, like, that whole idea that, these bad experiences, not only will they get better and, like, you'll learn something from it, but you can now have something to talk about, you now have stories, you now have, plenty of things to share with the world and other people.
Absolutely, and there's, a light at the end of the tunnel, and when you think you're at your worst, like, don't feel like that's the end of the universe for you. There's always something to look forward to, and that's a constant reminder to me every day, just not just as an artist, but as a person too. So, yeah, I love songwriting. It's literally if I could do it every single day, which I am doing, but like if I could do it for the rest of my life, I choose that path over anything else.
Yeah, and so is there kind of a song of yours that sort of performed better or worse than you initially thought once you, like, released it?
Yeah, funny enough, it was Couch. I did not like Couch. It was not my favorite song by any means. I thought it was very silly. And it's a true story. I was literally broken up with somebody on a couch. And yeah, and I literally went to a session a month later and I was like, I need to talk about this. It's just weighing on my chest. But then I got stared at being like, you're really gonna name a song Couch? And I was like, yes, I'm gonna do it. And I didn't know where that song would end up going. But doing a bunch of meetings and meeting people, they were like, "You need to put this song out like now. It should have been your first single." And I was like, "No, no, no!" Like, not listening to anybody at
Yeah.
the. Was like, I know my music better than anybody else. Like, I'll put out Butterflies first. And Butterflies did great. I love Butterflies, and I'm so happy that it was my first single. But then when Couch came out, it was a whole other beast. I got like so many new people coming to my music and wanting to know who I was. And that song really, sold me on, listening to other people being like, okay, you guys are right. So yeah, that song I didn't even think was going to get released, but it did, and I'm so proud of it.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by W Energy. W Energy is an energy drink you mix at home from a tub. It helps you focus, it helps you concentrate, it helps you win. W is a lot like these other energy drink mix companies you see, but it's better. They have better flavors, they have better taste, they have better products. You can get Dragonade, you can get Galaxy Grenade, you can get Dub Sludge, and so many more great flavors like Beach and Peach. Once you have the powder to make one of these flavors, you can also get one of W's own shaker cups to make your drinks at home. If energy drinks aren't your thing, no worries. You can get products like stickers and clothing that look awesome. If you just want to try out W, you can go ahead and get one of their starter packs. It comes with a shaker cup and 3 flavors. On top of that, any products you get on any order from W, you can save 10% by using my discount code Heroek. That's just my name, Heroek, in all caps. One more time, that's code Heroek at w.gg for 10% off any order. Go focus, go concentrate, go in, be better. W. If you kind of stepped in the studio one day and were presented with like this, once in a lifetime chance, like you could make a song with any artist in the world, who do you think you would choose to make this song with, and why is that?
Oh, geez. I'm either going to be made fun of, or you're really going to respect me with my answer. I'd have to say two people. First person would be Dolly Parton. I love her, and I worship the ground this woman walks on. So I would definitely say Dolly. Like Jolene is one of my favorite songs, and
Mhm.
I've covered it and I've sang it at shows so many times. But I would definitely say Dolly, and then I would say Freddie Mercury, because that man died way too soon, and I wish that I was able to actually experience his presence, like in this time and age, and see what he could have come up with all the technology and stuff that we have now.
Yeah, and like I guess for Freddie Mercury, you kind of already answered it, but like, for Dolly, do you just think like your voices would sound good together? Do you kind of just think she would bring like a kind of a whole new perspective to a song you're working on?
I
What's
think
kind of the
just
motivation behind
my
that?
I would say for starters, it's my little country heart telling me I need to live out my 5-year-old dream and like
Yeah.
sing a song with Dolly. But no, I typically have a really high pitched singing voice. So a lot of people at times would be like, you need to cover songs from artists that have like a higher pitched voice. And that's when I started really like looking up to Dolly, because I was like, wow, she has the same voice tone as I do, and you're not hearing that so often. So I really looked up to her and how she created her sound. So I think we would sound great together. So Dolly, if you're listening, I would love that.
And sort of, I guess, like you've had a few kind of experiences performing live, I'm guessing, in your career. Do you kind of have one show in particular that stands out in your mind for any particular reason that is kind of just your favorite show that you've performed?
You know what? I would say, I mean, all of them are my favorite, truly. But I think
Hmm.
what is a better answer is that each show you learn something new that you take to the next show. So, and each show after that is different. So, I love doing it just because I learn something new every single day, whether it's a mic issue or a sound issue or an in-ear issue, or like heck, it's what songs I'm playing at this time and at this venue. Like you really feed off of other people. So I love all the shows, and I would love to do even more and get out of New York City, because I've been doing a New York City tour and
Yeah.
perform at different clubs and venues around the city, which has been incredible because you get all different walks of life when you're in the city. So it's always something new. But there are places that I haven't been to and seen before. So I would love to do that.
Yeah. And you actually kind of mentioned it here, like performing with in-ears, and just like what artists hear with their in-ears during a performance is something just like relatively new to me. I didn't really understand the level of, you know, feedback, or like uh kind of just behind the scenes help that artists get from their in-ears. Have you ever like had a personal experience with like an in-ear gone wrong or anything like that?
Oh, all the time. My in-ears don't fit my ears. So they are falling out left and right, no matter
And
what
kind of
I do.
more out ears.
Yeah, literally, no matter how much tape and hot glue that I put on my skin, it is always on the floor. So I would say if there's ever an invention out there where they could just stick in and stay in, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But in terms of just other in-ear drama that may come with it, it is so hard because you not only are hearing what the engineer is telling you and the words and stuff, the music and the backtrack, but like you also don't know at the same time what you sound like when you're singing with in-ears in.
Yeah.
So that was a huge challenge because when they're off, I could hear fine, but when they're in your ears, you're focused on that and that only. So it was definitely challenging. Like my first two shows, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I feel like this is a waste. But you practice and you rehearse and you learn how to use your in ears to the best of your ability. So yeah, I would definitely say get them for big festivals. You don't need them for small shows, but they're definitely worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know a drummer that just like was kind of was just talking about like his first experience with an in-ear, and he was like, it threw me off so much because he had like
Oh
a
yeah.
click track going the entire time, and he was like, I'm used to just like hearing the track and playing along to that, but like the click was, it's meant to help, but it was just totally throwing him off just because he wasn't
Absolutely.
used to it.
Yep, it is so hard. And everyone's like, oh, like, I mean, the show ended up being great, my first one. They're like,
Yeah,
how'd you sound? I was like, I don't know how I sound.
yeah.
I was like, as long as you guys said it was good, that's all I care about. I'm like,
Yeah.
I couldn't hear myself at all.
And
So
I think that is like a common thing. I don't think a lot of music fans realize just how complex and in depth the in ears go. Like I think they kind of just suspect that like it's the backing track, and then maybe like producer or engineer's voice if like something's going wrong. But other than that, like silence. And it's like no, it's a whole lot more than that.
oh
Like throughout
yeah.
the show.
This isn't like AirPods. Like, no, it's so different.
Yeah, and so you have kind of like a dream venue in mind, like one kind of theater or arena that you would just love to play at for any given reason?
I'm a New York girl, so Madison Square Garden is right at the top. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cliche to say, but you're growing up in New York and you're seeing that place sold out every weekend. That is just a dream and a goal that I so wish to achieve before I die. So, I would say MSG for sure. And then I would also love to do Coachella as much as I've never been. I don't know if I'll ever go because it looks intense, but I would love to perform there. That seems like so much fun.
Yeah. And um you've kind of uh w- sorry, circling quite a bit back. When you were talking about your show, opening for Sabrina Carpenter and having like fans come up to you after your performance. Do you have sort of any fan interactions that have kind of like stuck in your mind, or like that are memorable for any particular reason?
I think the ones where it's the younger kids, like the 10 to 12-year-olds that come up to you, that just literally melts my entire heart. Because with older kids, it's like they could just say you're great and move along and ask for a picture, but I feel
Yeah.
like when it comes from the younger kids, they genuinely want to know more and they appreciate you so much more because it's like, they want to grow up to be something like you. And
Yeah.
I hope that I have that impact on someone and people that like one day where, they are really listening and they're learning and, they grow up to be whatever they want to be. And I hope that I could, give that advice to people with music.
Yeah. And do you, I think, I think you do actually have a point there that like, um, younger fans kind of, they still have that hope maybe of like growing up to be something like you growing up for that, whereas I feel like as we get older it's kind of a lot of people kind of get pressured into this more like quote unquote realistic box, or like want to
Yep.
like follow the path that like everyone in their family has done sort of, and like a lot of people might be just like scared to maybe if they have, you know, family members that like went to school, like went to college for 4 years and then got like a normal job. The next one, you know, 4 years of college, maybe even like a bit of grad school, and then they want to step out and do something more, you know, like out of the norm. They want to, you know, drop out to pursue music or art or sports, whatever their passion is. Well, what would you kind of say to one of these people that's like that's kind of scared to be honest with their family maybe, and say that like music's what they want to pursue doing as a career?
It's so funny how close to home this conversation just went. Well, for starters, they are not alone, because that is something that I've dealt with in my life, and especially, being home and being surrounded by family. They constantly want the best for you. So they're always thinking about reality rather than dreams. And, it was really hard for me, especially during the pandemic, to be like, do I continue to do this? I don't know who I am. Like, the music is there, but why is it not, branching out to more people? It's just a lot of
Yeah.
mental toying on yourself. And speaking to my family about it, of course, they're going to be like, we want to make sure that you are safe financially and emotionally, and, that you have a good life ahead of you. But they have always been supportive from day one of my music career, whether it was to pay for my first microphone or to, come with me at my first show. Like, they've always been there. But I would say
Yeah.
they wouldn't be good parents if they didn't give me the reality of every situation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate it a lot more than I'm able to actually talk to my dad, especially because he and I relate more in terms of going for dreams. Like, he played Major League Baseball for years, and to him and his family, like, everyone thought it was just a dream. So it was like he just kept chasing it and chasing it. So, and he got there. So he definitely understands where I'm coming from in terms of doing what I want to do, and, the potential that I have.
Yeah.
So, but again, like, in this day and age, like I'm just gonna repeat myself. They wouldn't be the parents that they are today if they didn't give me that sort of retrospect of how the world is and how the industry is changing every single day. So you just always got to be conscious. You can't think that, one hit wonders are going to stay one, like, you know what I mean? Like, you really got to have a plan ahead of you. Like, that's why I've always had like a plan B in terms of making sure that, like, I am good and I am safe. But yeah, like, I went to school still. Like, I graduated full time for not only high school but in college as well. So, like, I have my degree, and I'm very lucky, because a lot of people would just, say that they're going to, be an actress and a singer, and then they see, 6 7 years down the line, they don't, have that anymore, and they're
Yeah.
struggling. So I would just say it's important to go to school, kids. It's important to have an education, for sure. But if it's something that you really want to do, you have to work for it. It's not going to be handed to you at all. You really got to work for it, and you'll see when the time comes and you achieve that goal, how much prouder that you will be once you have it in your hands.
Yeah. You have to work for it. You have to work hard, and you also have to um during doing that and before that, you have to understand just what to do and how to do it. Like,
Yep.
don't sort of just expect that once you start putting music on Spotify, like you'll start gaining listeners. You have to figure out, okay, well, how do I share my music the best way? How do I get help with, any music videos I want to do? How do I get it on playlists? There's a lot that goes into it on top of just purely the music and releasing the music.
Absolutely. Like, again, this is not an easy job by any means. There's so much that goes into, even visually, not just, through audio, but like, music videos, promo, and,
Yeah, and
oh,
even like this is one of my favorite parts of music that I feel like a lot of people kind of overlook is cover art. I know for a fact that whoever your favorite artists are, it doesn't, like, for the most part, it doesn't matter if they're releasing music, like they need help, they need artists for that cover art. It's not like they just kind of come up with it on their own. They're not like a
oh no,
I
there's a
mean, there
full
there
blown
definitely
photo
are
shoot.
people there. There definitely are people that can make their own cover art, but a lot of people need an artist's help with that. It's not like even something that seems as small as that needs a lot of work behind it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like even with me too, like when I started to create my EP, like I didn't know where I was going to go visually with everything. So I had
Mm-hmm.
my friends all come together and we all made mood boards and we did the whole clothing thing and the makeup and the whole thing. And but it takes so much time because that's one thing where you really got one shot at it. Like
Yeah.
um and it's a lot of fun. Like there are amazing perks to being in the industry, and for example, like doing videos and photo shoots and interviews and touring. Like that is just so much fun, and it really does spice up a normal, music career when you have that stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is.
And
It is
and
fun.
and do you kind of out of the music you've released so far, do you have a song of yours that's like your favorite, maybe for any reason?
Yes, I do, and it is not coming out now. It is coming out eventually this year. But
Yeah.
that song just it broke me when I actually wrote the song, and I wrote it when I was out, and I had the idea in my head driving, and I parked the car on the side of the road by a
Yeah.
train, and I wrote the song, and literally the next day I went on Splice. I found like a little sample that I just thought really gave the song a little bit more color to start off with.
Yeah.
And I called Chris, my lovely friend and engineer, and I was like, Chris, you need to book me in the studio like right now. He was like, all I have is like 4 to 6. And I was like, that's fine, I'm coming. So I went into the studio, cut the whole song in I think two takes.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, I cut the whole song in 2 takes because I knew when I walked in there that whatever emotion was going to come out, that's what needed to be there. I was like that song for me was like, God gave me that opportunity, so I just have to take it. Like I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to give it my all. And I went abroad for 2 weeks. I was in Europe the day I think 2 days after I actually cut the song. And Chris, who never produces music, sent me a first rough draft of the song being like, I don't know what you were going to do with this song, but I just really had to jump on the opportunity of just trying to produce something for you, and sent me the song. And I cried. I cried in my hotel room, just like bawling. I was like, this is everything that I wanted. Like it's perfect. And it's so um, real for me because that song also let out a lot of grief that I had towards someone. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
finally put it to rest when I recorded the song. So it was really special to have
Yeah.
that weight.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great that you can kind of find that emotional help from this song. And what a story with just one song, and what a way to leave it off, Haley. Those are all the questions I had for you today. Thank you so much for coming on. We talked so much about, the behind the scenes, stories behind songs, everything. I think it was a really great conversation. Where can people find you online, music, websites, anything you have to offer?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and I'm so glad we had the chance to speak.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you guys can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all Haley Gold, Haley Gold with two D's. And, find me on Spotify, Apple Music. I have a whole lot of music to come out, especially one in 2 weeks. So keep the lookout. And yeah, hopefully that everybody will come and see a show and I'll hang out. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'll leave a link to some of that down below. And yeah, I can't wait to see this music that you have coming out soon.